Thank you very much, first of all. Okay, today we have with us, it's a pleasure that you accepted this invitation, Alessio Ferrari from the EPFL in Lausanne. And let's get into the chat right away without further ado. I want to ask you as an initial question, what are the main topics you're addressing at the moment, of course in relation to landslides?
I think the main keyword that would characterize my work in this last period is multi-physical approach. So what I mean is that we believe more and more that you have to include in the analysis of essentially in hazard analysis variables that traditionally we are not used to consider in the classical soil mechanics approach. I'm thinking in particular to the role of the partial saturation or temperature, how this would affect the overall setting of stability of a slope. And so I firmly believe that more and more we need to have this larger vision of including advanced things, which is the only way probably if you want to capture the real physics of the phenomenon.
Of course, I totally agree with you on that. But before moving into the future and what we need for advancing the state of the art of landslide research, I want to ask you, for your experience that you had in the past, if you can share with us some research initiatives that you participated in that are worth of relevance, so that like our listeners can refer to.
Yeah, listen. I think we are facing a big challenge in these years. Soil mechanics is no different from other disciplines where essentially what we do is based on past experience. And even the analysis of landslides in many ways is done just by looking at past events, drawing duration, intensity, threshold curves, and all these kind of things. And what I realize more and more is that if you can believe or not to climate change, and this is not the point of the discussion, but it's obvious that we are seeing that things are slightly changing from what we are used to know. So the question is just this pure deterministic approach that we are used to have enough to face? Can we still base our prediction just observing past events? So I think no. And this is why from one side, I think we need more and more to have a clear understanding of the physics, just to even to be able to anticipate things that we have not been observing in the past, and also to include also some non-deterministic approaches into the analysis. So we have recently worked at EPFL on including neural networks approach into the stability analysis. So just to trying to put ourselves in the condition where we can create in a given way, in a sounded way, the events to which the slope could be subjected, even if those events were never seen in the history. So I think this is one of the assets where we are investing more at the moment.
Interesting. And if we move from your personal work and we go and look at literature out there, is there any book, reference, article that you read in the past few years that you would like to recommend for a reason, of course?
Well, I think unfortunately I'm referring more and more to the unsaturated soil mechanics. Unfortunately, this is probably something where we should try to do something. So there are very nice textbooks on unsaturated soils. Now more and more we see production of those books, but still the applications are somehow missing. So imagine we talk about slope stability, but we can talk about also retaining structures. So if we want to include all this knowledge, which is now is available on unsaturated soils, and it's there, you can read books, you can read articles, but then when you try to have this applied to the real works, then you start to be in trouble somehow, because almost nobody is telling you how to apply those concepts, what to do.
So let me ask you, are you thinking about something?
I'm thinking even the Eurocode, for example.
No, but I'm saying, are you thinking about something personally? Are you moving towards filling this gap? And
personally, I'm now we have some research work at EPFL. We are, in particular, we're talking about retaining structure. This can be applied to slopes, but to any kind of civil engineering work, how we can include the partial saturation in the design. So we know the concept, we know the physics, but even the theories that we are using are probably simple adaptations of theory that were developed for saturated or dry materials, and now we just extend them, like extended more Coulomb criterion or something like that to the partially saturated condition. And I'm still not very confident that this is still mature to go directly to the practice. So I feel that as a researcher, we still have to fill a little bit the gap and creating more confidence in the use of those tools in the real work.
Of course, that's extremely important. And so if we move from the researcher's point of view to the practitioner's point of view, that's you were saying that we need to fill the gap. Any initiative you are considering together with the people that are maybe managing landslide risk, or with practitioners that are designing?
Yeah, what you're mentioning is very interesting. From one side, I have to say, I live in a country and work mainly in a country where 7% of the territory is affected by landslides.
It's a very important problem.
Okay, it's an alpine region or subalpine region. So of course you have a lot of slopes, and you can have deep-seated landslide. You can have shallow landslides. So every town has its own landslide problem there. And fortunately, Switzerland is a country where there is a big attention with respect to natural risk. So the local authorities are considering it seriously. And what is interesting to know is that more and more the engineering offices which are in charge of those projects, they come to see us, and they even start to ask us characterization of the involved materials using, for example, unsaturated soil mechanics. Probably 10 years ago, nobody would have come to the laboratory asking for a retention curve. So they were not even aware of what was the meaning of it. And now we start to see more and more that they are coming and asking us also to have more extended characterizations of the material. So I think this is also coming from the knowledge that we try to spread out in the local.
And it's been working, apparently.
Yes,
if you say that you saw a change of behavior.
Yes, and this what is really important is to try to involve. This is why we organize more and more those kind of public events or open seminars where we really try to show the importance of considering those aspects. And I'm happy to say that we see that the feedback starts to be quite good.
Cool, that's interesting. Yeah. Of course, the countries, we are both Italians, you work mainly in Switzerland now, also in Italy. Every country has its own rules, but it's interesting to see that there is an attention to advanced soil mechanics from people that are managing landslides over wide areas, of course, at a small scale. All right, so thank you very much, Alessio. I guess pretty much that's the time that we are typically allocating for these short chats. So I thank you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for the initiative and having me here.
Bye. Thank you.